Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and this is the day. January 11th, 2021. I'm done. I'm officially done with Russell Westbrook. I've looked back at the games from this season. I've looked at a ton of Russell Westbrook stuff over the last couple of days, and I've decided I'm out. Like it's an until proven otherwise thing for me now for Russell Westbrook. I have solidified and I have created and made my opinion on Russell Westbrook as a basketball player and on his ability to help your team win basketball games and on his ability to positively impact his teammates. And until proven otherwise, I'm out. I have decided, for me personally, that Russell Westbrook is not a playoff performer. Russell Westbrook is not someone that uplifts or empowers his teammates to help them get better. He's not a guy that helps your team win basketball games all that much unless everything is about him. And if everything is about him, there is a very, very hard ceiling on how good your team can be, especially in the playoffs. And most of the time, that means you won't advance past the first round. Here are some numbers for you. Russell Westbrook has won one playoff series in the last 4 years. That was last season with the Houston Rockets when they defeated the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that was not necessarily tanking, but they weren't really trying all that hard to win basketball games either. They barely beat them in the first round. Russell Westbrook has also never done anything in the playoffs from a series win standpoint without James Harden or Kevin Durant on his team, or both. He is a career 41% shooter from the field in the postseason, despite the fact that he gets plenty of opportunities to get as many, easy shots, or everything is about getting Russ in rhythm. 41% from the field in the postseason in his career. He does not space the floor either, which is a critical component of not only modern NBA basketball and helping, your team win games, but also being able to fit within multiple different team concepts. You have to be able to shoot three to be able to do that. He's a career 30% three-point shooter. And it's similar to the Trae Young thing we talked about yesterday. He kind of needs everything to be about him. And at the end of the day, if that doesn't relate to playoff success, then honestly, that's fine. Like, there's plenty of players throughout the history of the NBA that have not had, tons of playoff success, and they put up great numbers, and that's just the legacy of their career. And I think that's where we're going to be at with Russ. Like, he's going to have a finals appearance to his name because of the Thunder stuff. And it's not that he hasn't been a great player, but he's failed to adapt time after time. And, once he really got the reins there in Oklahoma City, once Kevin Durant left, you could argue that it's been downhill for his career ever since, because he just never was forced to, never had the opportunity to, never whatever, became a complimentary star, which is what he always should have been. Russell Westbrook has become a stat-stuffing beast, honestly. Like, from a statistical standpoint, there's no argument against Russell Westbrook. But all of those stats and all those numbers have come at a cost of him learning how to play team basketball, and him learning how to help his other teammates, help them win the game. Everything for Russ has to be about him as it relates to winning games. He never allows other players to help him win the game. It's always about him. And like, coming into the league, it should have been a situation where Russ was the best defender on the team, and he just attacked the rim constantly. He was all over the place. And at certain points there in Oklahoma City, he started to show that, where like, it wasn't about the scoring, and it wasn't about being the guy that you led immediately to the basket, either scoring wise or assist wise, but it was just about being everywhere. It was diving out of bounds. It was pushing the ball in transition. It was being a great on-ball and off-ball defender, and that's what he always should have been. But somehow, somewhere along the way, he has morphed into a player that is a stat sheet by himself, which is great. But I'm out. Like, there's no way that you can convince me that he inspires any confidence in any teammate or anyone around him, that he empowers his teammates in any way, and that anybody would even want him. Like, go and look at the standings in the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference. Just pull up the list of NBA teams and tell me how many teams on that list would legitimately trade for Russell Westbrook right now, considering the contract situation, considering his age, all those things. Go ahead and tell me which team is calling the Washington Wizards right now and saying, you know what, we want Russell Westbrook. I can think of a very, very incredibly short list of teams that would even consider picking up the phone, right? And there's a reason that he went to Washington. That's because they were one of the only teams that A, could trade for him, and one of the only teams that B, could see any upside in trading for him. Like, maybe Detroit is like, let's move Blake Griffin and go get Russell Westbrook. Incredibly unlikely. Maybe the Knicks go back into the mode of just wanting to bring in stars and they go and trade contracts for Russ and they screw up the actual positive things they've got going there in New York. But I don't see any of those things happening. Nobody wants him. And it's honestly, it's a little bit sad because at his peak, like, Russ was one of the most exciting players in the entire league. And for the beginning part of his career, like before KD left, and for a little bit after he left, I defended Russ. I wasn't like out and about like this huge Russ stan, but I did defend what he stood for and what he was doing in Oklahoma City after KD left, the decision to stay and the decision to not ask out. I respected that. And the stuff that he did while KD was still there, when he wasn't constantly trying to score and assist on every basket, he was such a great athlete. He played with such intensity that I respected that. But somewhere along the way, that got lost and it became all about the stats. It became all about putting up numbers, and the player that Russell Westbrook was supposed to become got lost in the shuffle. Somewhere in Russell Westbrook's career, if you run it 100 times, there's a scenario in which he becomes like a 20 point per game scorer. He shoots like 47% from the field, but he's everywhere. He's the best athlete on the court. He's all over the place defensively. He's still averaging like 6-7 rebounds a game, 6-7 assists a game just off driving kicks and things like that. And he still isn't a great shooter, but he impacts the game in so many other ways that he's like the guard Draymond Green with better scoring instincts. Like that should have always been what Russell Westbrook was. And at some point along the way, he felt like he had to carry the team. And at certain points, he absolutely did. And I respect that. But I'm out. I'm done. I'm done trying to give any kind of defense of him. I'm done trying to, make any kind of excuse for him and say that, well, if he was in this situation or this situation, things would be better. The KD thing sucked for him. Like, it was unfortunate that KD decided to leave, and just the sheer talent of those two players together would have been awesome. And had the Thunder never traded James Harden away, maybe those three guys are still on the Thunder and they're still rocking and rolling. They won a couple of titles, and our opinion of Russell Westbrook is entirely different because it was almost forced into that complementary role that I mentioned earlier that would have fit what he does best so much better. But there's still decisions made on his part and by the team at other points as well that allowed him to become the symbol of stat stuffing and losing for the last 4 or 5 years. And I know that his teams have won regular season games, but ultimately it comes down to the postseason, and he just has not performed as a one-man band or, even really otherwise last year. And it's just frustrating because I really felt like there was something there with Russ, and he's had a great career, but from a winning standpoint, there was something so much more that he could have been throughout his career. And I'm not trying to speak like his career's over. Maybe he can figure it out at some point and really become that complimentary player that he was always supposed to be. But I think it's going to be difficult at this point for him to turn that around. And some of those Oklahoma City teams weren't great, but then when you look back on them now, you're thinking, wait, that's odd. Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis flourished as soon as they got out of the Russ ecosystem, right? Like, Oladipo is a more critical example there because Sabonis was just a rookie and they had to have him out there shooting threes just to space the floor, and they had Steven Adams and Dennis Kanter, so it's not like he was going to be playing a ton anyway. But the Oladipo thing, like, he immediately became an All-NBA player, and it's just like, I don't know. It's such a weird thing to think about with his career that it's relatively clear now the player that he was supposed to become, and then the player that he became is just not the guy that ultimately would have helped teams win basketball games. So basically what I'm saying is I'm out. Like, if you guys still want to defend Russ, if you still want to make excuses, if you still want to say, well, if this had happened, if they'd had better spacing, blah, blah, that's fine. But I think the results currently speak for themselves. And if you want to put some more blame on Bradley Beal, that's fine. I think there are some things that Beal is getting a pass on that he shouldn't right now because Russ is there, because Russ does get a good amount of hate. But I haven't seen enough winning from him in his career to be on the Russ bandwagon anymore, to be on the Russ stan train. I can't do it. Washington's too bad. They can't defend. And it's been too many times now and too many different teams now with Russ. I'm out. I'm 100% done. But that's going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. I upload twice a day, every day, all throughout the NBA offseason, all throughout the NBA season. So it's a great place for consistent NBA content. You can also leave a like rating on the video as well, and check me out at various socials at the bottom of the screen. There's a link tree down in the description below. With all those things said, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.